Time for the round table.
Let's talk to ladies. Let's get what the ladies think about raising men. Let's talk ShopTalk.
Yeah, boss.
All right, guys, this is like my favorite part when you get to talk to the ladies. Wow. No, it's true now, because you've talked to men, you've got all this feedback, and now you want to talk to the ladies, kind of like, you know,
Get our take
gets
on
the
things.
real wisdom.
The real wisdom.
take,
I like
our
that.
take
I
on
like
things.
So what we realized, so all the different topics I've talked about, and all the things that I realized, the major thing is that a lot of the issues, a lot of the solutions seem to come from home, like the family unit. And whether it's right or it's wrong, most of the people that spend time with children in the child stage are mothers as opposed to the fathers. And we probably ought to change that a little bit. So I wanted to talk to women about raising men, what is important, the values that men should have, the difference between men versus boys, which is the first thing. So that's like the first thing I want to talk about, first thing I want to get opinions about, and I'm going straight to our auntie in the Lord. Ms. Yesi, what are your takes on the difference between men and boys and the values that we need to be raising our boys to have so that they can become men?
First of all, Adeolu, I'm glad to be here, but I also want to say that the first thing that occurred to me when you told me to come and talk about raising boys and men was I wouldn't have thought there was a difference between raising boys and girls, but what would I know? I only raised boys. So I don't know the difference, and I would have hoped there was not much difference. However, since you've posed the question, the difference between boys and men is boys are those little naughty people that you keep correcting and who keep whining and who keep doing naughty things and who don't feel responsible for anything and who believe that the whole world revolves around them. We're hoping that by the time you become men, you leave those characteristics behind. Unfortunately, some people don't. So, I've told you what they shouldn't be doing when they've become men. But, and men, honestly, should have become responsible, become caring, care for those around them, taking decisions of their own lives seriously, and not imagining that everything is about them.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, granted, understood, accepted, received. But because clearly I think we kind of live in a culture where it seems like a lot of the men that we have don't take on those responsibilities and are more like boys. They haven't matured past the understanding of what their responsibilities are, or even in understanding the responsibilities, like, yes, they're like, okay, I must make money, I must be able to do this, I must be able to do that, but they don't approach it with a sense of care for the people around them. So how do you instill those kind of values in people? I'm going to aim it at you again before I open the floor.
That's fine. I think people are checking out my parenting skills now. And everyone is going, Google her children.
No, we know you don't. Excellent job.
So, yes, having told you the differences, so you wonder why some men then grow on to be proper men, why some men actually remain boys and children. And I'm glad you mentioned the cultural issue. You've gone back to the point I made about why is raising boys and men different from raising girls. I think a lot of the problems we have with our men have come from the cultural understanding of in the home where they're raised, where daddy is the big lord and the boys are the little lords and then everybody else is in the kitchen. So a lot of that self-grandiose and not caring about those around them and thinking that it's all about them have come from the fact that they've been raised as little princes. And that, I think, is the biggest problem, which is why I started by saying I don't have the experience of raising the other gender. And so everybody washed the plates and everybody did everything in my household. So I think a big problem with our culture is the fact that even as boys, they're raised to have an entitlement to space, to everything around them. And that could be the biggest problem.
Okay. Omotayo, you have brothers.
I have brothers, indeed.
So, like, what are your opinions in terms of what it was like for you, I guess, in your home as a girl with brothers? What would you say there were any differences in the way you guys were brought up?
Not really. I don't know. When I was younger, I remember feeling like we were all the same. And then I turned like 5 or something. And I started to realize that my brothers were acting like men, like outside men, like having an issue with, like I walk into the kitchen and I say, whose place is this? Better wash your plates. And the attitude is completely different. And I was like, where did they get this from? Because it's not from this house. And I started to realize that there's an outside socialization thing that happens that was not part of the house, because in the house you had to wash your plates. And in the house you had to do all that stuff. But they tried not to do it. However, that's not because they felt like they were superior to me. It's because as individuals, we all try to shirk our responsibilities. So to me, there was no difference between what I'd seen from the people in my house and outside. It's when I realized that there were people who were raised with mostly like female houses, and I started to see that there was a difference between the way my friends acted when it was only them and their sisters, and then the ones with boys. And that then started this whole new thing. I feel like I started studying men when I turned like 26 or something, because I was like, I don't know what's going on anymore. I thought we were all the same. Clearly, something is different. But I think the major difference I've noticed from the very few men I've met who actually fit the description that you gave.
The good ones.
The good ones. The difference seemed to be a couple of things. One, they seem to either have good relationships with their fathers or mentors or good friends even among their peers. So I found that most of the really, really entitled ones, they just have like girls they like who call them, check up on them, give them food, and give them emotional support, but they don't have to commit to that. But the people who are committed to friends and people who have fathers and mentors, it's just such a difference between...
No, not those with strong mothers.
To be fair...
I thought that would be
To be
part
fair,
of it.
I didn't get to that part of the conversation with them. But no, actually, I found that most people took the presence of a strong mother for granted.
Yeah.
Like, I just expect your mother to be a strong mother. Yeah. But then a man who can talk to their dad about their work before they get in trouble, or their relationship before they get in trouble, that was so rare. Most people it only gets to daddy when it's like, okay, it's a big problem now. We have to put our hands behind our back and say, Daddy, I'm sorry, I spent all the money. Yeah.
Okay.
Weruche.
I concur, actually, because I found similar, but I'll let you ask me the question that you want to ask me.
So what's your experience of, would you say, of men versus boys as a woman, like, in the dating world, in terms of, like, what you encounter of men, and what you think represents a guy that you're willing to date and one that you're not?
It's all literally what these beautiful ladies have said in terms of the difference between a man and a boy. Is a man takes responsibility and a boy just wants to play. And I believe I've experienced both in the dating world. And it's quite crazy, because I did find that a lot of guys who had strong mothers, single mother families, they, as much as they admire and respect women, they also expected a lot more from women. You know, because they're like, my mum can do it, why can't you? But your mum has to be extra strong because it's just your mum. So, you know, it's a bit unfair to put the onus on the woman to be extra strong when it should be shared. And also the difference between, I do see a difference, and it's to do with the family. So guys with fathers in the home are different. They actually have an authority, and they have a can-do attitude, and they want to take charge, and they want to do things and make sure everything is sorted out. And I think that actually makes a big difference, and it also filters into the dating world because it's almost what they see at home that they expect to see in the world. So it's like my mom used to do that, my dad used to do that, so I'm going to do it. And if it's a bit weird in the home...
So what you're saying is that they actually project
Yes.
either their mother or their father's opinion and things
Yeah.
in life.
What I've seen some of the time, yes.
So, I mean, where do you think that becomes dangerous in terms of building expectations? Like you said, like if they're expecting things based on this is what my mom does, this is what my mom is like. When do you feel like you're bordering onto something that can become unhealthy?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I was sitting, I was thinking here, and I was thinking, really, expectations. I was hoping until you said what you said just now. I was hoping that if a girl were to meet a boy with a strong mother, and I hope we are all agreed as to what a strong mother is. It's not a bully mother. It's not. Okay. So I was thinking if you were to meet a guy with a strong mother who is used to a strong presence of a female, then in no way is he threatened by a strong woman by his side. I'd always thought that was a good thing.
It can always
if you
make
see
him relax as well, though.
Because then he expects the woman to
always
but that's why I'm saying, shall we agree on what is a strong mother?
Okay, maybe we should, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about that then. I'm not the one that's going to talk. I'm just here to ask.
Yes, I mean, if a strong mother means the woman who does everything for him, and therefore he has grown up to expect everything, I'm not quite sure. That's a doormat mother. That's a doormat mother.
I understand what you mean, because I think there's a thin line. Because there's the authority of a strong mother, a woman who can handle things and, at the same time isn't babying him.
Yes.
So it's just that, but I understand what you mean, what my experience, it wasn't that the mother was a doormat. She was able to carry on and, her family is
and so
in order.
He was expecting all that strength from you.
I
can see.
That I worry about with that is, I think it's important that we show people strong women and strong men, but defining those, and because I think people's expectation or definition of a strong man in itself is wrong and it's authoritarian.
In the same way, we didn't know we didn't agree on a strong
what
woman.
a strong woman means.
And if it's authoritarian, then you create an issue, because in Nigeria we've created issues in that we think that men, it's weakness to talk about your emotions. Therefore, as a man, that is a weakness. So therefore, strength is being able to do everything by yourself and hold it in and not express these things. And if we create a thing where we look at strong women and we're not creating an image of strong women being valued by the men around them, then it creates this thing of, I expect you to be like this, not I value you being like this.
If you were a boy who grew up in a house where your mother is professional, strong, can say what she thinks without being bullied, and you have a father that has the confidence to deal with that while maintaining authority. Let's not pretend that authority shouldn't be maintained by someone. Of course. Or, we don't want a lawless place.
Yes.
But in his authority, he's very caring about his family. And we all know that he will care for us, and once in a while that is going to be. But if a guy grows up, if a boy grows up under those circumstances, hopefully, he's going to know his position as a carer.
Yeah.
He's going to be confident, whoever his wife is. And hopefully grow up to just not continue to be a baby. Grow up properly and not continue to be a baby.
Yeah, because I worry about that in terms of, I was having a conversation with someone else who said that we have situations where, if the parents go out, they'll the daughter gets put in charge of, doing certain things, washing dishes, all that kind of stuff. And the guy, because he doesn't get told those things and also doesn't get told to value the woman for doing that, just expects that, women do this and I can sit down and watch TV. So even if that is the situation, even if the woman is being put in charge of that, are you teaching the guy to value and appreciate the woman for doing that, or just to expect it, and understand that this is what, that there's certain things that she's doing because she's better at, but there are also things that you should be doing because you're better at, and it's also not based solely on gender.
There's a difference between well-raised children within the home setting and in the dating setting. I find that there are many young men that people have said, oh, he's a nice young man, you know his parents, and I agree. They will greet you, they'll carry the bag, they'll ballet, they'll do all of that. But in a dating setting, it's completely different, because I don't think the values that dating values are taught at home for some reason. So I find that people who weren't comfortable talking to their father about anything that wasn't school or money or do your chores, they still learn from TV. They still learn from their friends. They still learn from everyone else around them. And the exposure that we're still getting, even from these really good homes, I mean, there are things that my brothers picked up that my mom probably doesn't know they ever picked up. And my dad probably doesn't know they ever picked up. My dad would have conversations with me about dating and say, oh, what's the situation out there? What's going on? And I'm just like, trust me, your best friend's very good son also probably wants me to send him nudes, or probably wants me to show up at his house at the second date and put out to some degree. Like, it's not because he cannot come home or get a good job or any of those other things that are outward, pictures of being well brought up. It's that interpersonally he still hasn't learned you can't always get your way. And sometimes it's not the parents' fault. Sometimes I feel like there's a switch in men's heads where they feel like when it's time to marry, I will be good then. Until then.
They're just gonna live wild.
I'm looking at these two ladies, and I'm thinking, as a mother, you just reminded me, and it's the truth. I say it to parents, mothers especially, interestingly. It's interesting you keep saying, oh, those that speak to their father about this and speak to their father about that. It could be good. But we're not going to go to fathers with bad examples at the moment. But not at the moment. I just want to, because you're telling me some of the things I learned from outside.
Yes.
Okay, so you're just bringing together in my head two things I'm thinking about. One of the things I say to parents, whether parents of boys or girls, is remember the stewardship you have to produce an adult that you'll be proud of. Someday, remember what you need to put in that person to be the kind of adult to be proud of. So I think a lot of parents don't think that. They're just thinking from, I love my son. I want my son to enjoy being in this house. After all, he's a boy. Some girl is going to cook for him, so we might as well be cooking for him now. So, and unfortunately, they're creating an adult that is going to be a problem in the future. And I don't think they're thinking about it. And a lot of parents are getting heartaches from having those kind of sons, at the other side of life. If I were to go to dating, that's why I'm saying I'm afraid of these two ladies now. Because I'm a mother of two sons, and I'm sitting in front of another son, and we're talking dating. Now, do you think, now I'm the one asking questions. Do you think that the dating problem or crisis we have in Nigeria, do you think it's an extension of the national sickness and environmental? I mean, I use the word corruption a lot, and a lot of people might misunderstand it. But is it part of the moral corruption in society? Because the child is going to be raised at home, he's going to be in school, he's going to be at work. It's going to be at university. And so you're telling me that there are things people pick up from outside the home. So you're telling me it's also not the fault of the parents.
Yeah.
I kind of beg to this.
Yeah, I feel like there's somewhere where it overlaps.
Yes.
Because I was just remembering as you were speaking, I taught in primary school for a very short time, and I saw that parents have so much power, but I don't think all parents are aware of it or they wield it. Because the one thing I found is if the parents can answer a child's question, they won't ask it again. But if the parent says, so for instance, if you come home and you say, oh, my friend was showing me a video and I don't know what was in the video, and you come to tell your parents, and your parents can say, okay, well, this happens at this time, but it doesn't happen at this time, so try not to look at it, or something that actually addresses it, then you answer the question that the child has. But if you say, what kind of nonsense is that? They already, automatically, it's that children are very smart, so you already know.
They roll back.
Yes, they already know, okay, she's not going to answer this question, because if she was going to answer,
we don't want to talk about it.
You don't want to talk
that's
about
trouble.
it. All right, so leave it, and then you go back to your... And then your friend has this uncle or this driver who's going to explain everything to you from their own perspective. Yeah. And children learn very quickly what not to tell their parents. Very, very, very quickly. And they learn at such a young age that it's not a grown-up issue. It's something that's always happened. So going back to the moral state of the entire country, I feel like it just feeds up. That if you don't have the confidence to talk about certain things at home, you will be at the mercy of the society to teach you.
And I've learned that there are a lot of people with a lot of relationships with their parents where they can't have conversations that they should. A lot of people don't want to go and sit in front of their father or their mother and simply just ask something that is simple. And especially with men, because men don't, it comes down to this weakness thing. So it's this idea of feeling like I shouldn't need to ask someone else for the answer, I can find it myself. And if they don't bother looking for the answer, they will kind of, it's very easy to fall into trends or to fall into whatever other people are doing. So we need to like create a position of dialogue, honest dialogue. And I was kind of going to ask a question, because I don't know the answer. What is the role that parents should have in their children's dating? It is because you don't want parents, first of all, you're going to push back real quick if your parents are like over-involved. But at the same time, they have to have some sort of input into make sure that you're doing it right, or you're not disrespecting whoever it is you're dating. And so how do parents go ahead and even try to do that?
Why don't you let them go first?
I actually do want to hear what their opinions are of how they would respond if they were dating some guy whose parents were involved, showed some level of involvement in the relationship.
I would think that if you were at a point where you're dating, you have an idea or you've got a level of understanding of being in a relationship with somebody else. So your parents, I wouldn't expect your parents to be that heavily involved in a relationship. I've never experienced anything like that. So this is, but I've heard of like horror stories of people's mums, a guy's mum calling the girl, or the guy going home and saying, Mum, this is what's happening in the relationship, rather than speaking to the person he's with. And to me that's bizarre, because if you're not mature enough to handle a relationship outside, you shouldn't be in one, really.
Based on stuff that we've said, based on this whole dating thing, and sometimes what you learn dating is different from what you learn at home. So the person, by all intents, is a good person, good in different aspects, work, understanding, respects generally. But then dating is a little bit different, and he don't know how to, he's not treating you with level of respect.
Like this relationship that's like in a vacuum. So you know how to be a student, and you're supposed to know how to be married somehow.
Magically.
But then in the middle, that dating thing of, are you dating only one person? Are you dating until you find the right person? How involved are you in, if you're dating, are you taking it really seriously or is it casual? All those places where the vacuum is. It's that same thing, what you said about you assume that the person should be mature enough to be in a relationship. Actually, a lot of people have questions that they've then filled in with what they saw in the movies, what their best friend did, what their ex asked them to do.
Don't push everything on parents. Just like you don't do everything you do in life fantastically. parents have their own strengths and their own weaknesses. And did you just say that no, there's nowhere where they learned how to do marriage? It's you were a student, and then get married. Same thing with parents.
Right.
You know, I mean, something comes as a byproduct of having fallen in love with someone and married someone. So we just roll with it. They're children.
You've said that you don't know somewhere that people should specifically learn how to date. So where should a guy learn how to date a girl? Where should he
His
learn
parents,
what that process should be like?
One of the problems why we have problems like we've been discussing this afternoon is the fact that we kind of glide through life, different aspects of life. Come to think about it, you say you know how to be a student, it's because they dropped you in school and you just rolled with it. Okay, so I'm saying and my call in the book is different aspects of life. Your money, your dating, your marriage, your parenting. Just do like a consultant would do for you. So I am faced with this aspect of life. I'm dating, I'm going to get married, or now these children have popped up. What are we going to do about them? Why don't you ask yourself, what are the objectives, what are the intentions about this person? Because a lot of things don't happen. They actually are default.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not like parents have intentionally decided to either ignore your relationship or poked their nose into it. It usually evolves. You know, it's like poor mother is sitting in the sitting room, the door opens, somebody saunters in, and there's a girl behind, and you're thinking, while I'm watching TV in my house, have you seen what they've brought now? And 10 minutes before, that mother wasn't thinking she was going to react to that.
Yeah.
And then she starts reacting. That's not intentional behavior. So I have a feeling that most of the problems we call problems is because people haven't sat back to actually decide what their intentions are about a thing. What are my intentions about my son dating? So even for parents, I think more and more parents need to be thinking, why am I doing this with my children? What am I going to produce if I let my son be weak in this way? Because I see it as weakness when somebody is not a matured, caring man. Why am I, is that the kind of man I want to? Guess what? Parents who complain about each other then go ahead and do things to produce exactly the same adults.